In this video, I'm going to teach you a bunch of ways to use a one-way forcing deck and a short card gimmick. If you don't already own these props, I'm going to put a link in the comments with a 10% discount from Sterling Magic. This first effect is great if you're performing for a large audience. So you'll introduce a deck of cards. You're going to ask the audience to select 3 cards. Tell them, I don't want you to pick the bottom card. Everyone's seen that card already. And don't pick the top card. I mean, that's the obvious one. I want you to pick something from the middle. I'm going to put this rubber band around these cards. When I toss these cards out to the audience, someone's going to catch them. I want you to just put your thumb on the side of the deck, riffle up, stop wherever you want, wherever you stop, peek at that card, memorize it, then let go of the cards. Don't forget your card. Then I'll ask you to toss the deck to somebody else in the audience, and they'll do the same thing. So you toss the deck out, somebody catches it. They're going to do exactly as told, and they're going to memorize that card. Then they'll take the deck and toss it to somebody else. They'll do the same thing. Then they'll take the deck and toss it to somebody else, and they'll toss the deck back up to you. And now you'll ask those 3 spectators to stand up. You're going to name 3 random cards, and you're going to ask them to not react as you name the cards. I'm going to say the King of Clubs, 2 of Hearts, and I'm going to say the 4 of Diamonds. And then I'll say to those 3 spectators, if I mentioned your card, sit down now. And amazingly, all 3 of them will sit down. So the way this trick works is that you have your one-way forcing deck. They're all 4 of Diamonds. That's the only card they can actually select. You're going to take the other 2 random cards, placing one on top and one on bottom of the deck. So now you put the rubber band around the deck, you can very freely handle this deck. You want them to see the bottom card. You're even going to call it out. When they riffle through the side, any card they stop at is going to have to be the 4 of Diamonds. And this is why it's important that you explain to them how to do it. Tell them to run their thumb up the side. When they stop, then tilt the cards back and peek at that card, and then put the cards back and toss them to somebody else. All 3 spectators are going to see the same card, but they won't know that. When you have all 3 stand up, you'll mention 2 random cards plus the force card from your deck. And then when you ask them to sit down, if you mention their card, they'll all sit down at the same time, and it'll look like you guessed all 3 cards. If you're performing one-on-one or for a small audience, this is another trick you can do with the one-way forcing deck. So you'll ask the spectator to select a card, but you'll say, look, don't pick the bottom card, don't pick the top card. Those are the obvious ones. What I want you to do is cut the deck anywhere, look at the card you cut to, and replace the pack while I look away. Turn around, and they'll cut the deck wherever they want, and they're going to see the card. Of course, it's your one-way forcing card, but they don't know that. You're going to memorize this card and place the deck back on top, square the deck up, and then tell you can turn back. Now, you'll tell them to just focus on the card they're thinking of, because in your pocket, there's a prediction that you wrote before the trick started. And you'll ask them now for the first time to reveal what card they're thinking of. And they're going to say the 4 of Diamonds, and then you'll show them that you predicted that they would pick the 4 of Diamonds. So to set up for this version of the trick, of course, you'd write your prediction on some kind of piece of paper. You'd put that in your pocket, and it would just match the force card in your deck. Then you'd place the 2 indifferent cards, one on the bottom of the deck and one on the top of the deck, and you're ready to go. Now, as you mentioned that you made a prediction earlier, you'll tell them it's in your pocket, and that gives you a reason to take these cards and place them in your pocket as you're reaching for the prediction. This cleans you up for later in the trick, so you don't have to worry about them trying to look at the cards. Now you'll take the prediction out of your pocket and show them that you guessed their card. But what if they ask you now to see the rest of the cards for some reason, or if you want to do another trick? Well, what's great is you just put those cards in your pocket. If you have a second deck of regular cards in your pocket, you can reach right in, take the other deck out, and it'll look like the same deck, and you keep on performing. Here's another simple way to swap out the deck for a regular deck of cards. Select any card and just slide it out from the pack. So let's say they slide that card out, I'll square the deck up. Then I'm going to ask them to take their card and just pick it up, look at it, show everybody else in the audience, just don't show me. So they'll take their card, they're going to show it around, and when they're satisfied, they'll put it back onto the table, and then I will ask them to think about their card. I'll make my prediction. I think it's the 4 of Diamonds. Of course, it is the 4 of Diamonds. Then I could use this regular deck of cards to perform the rest of my tricks. This move might have been super obvious watching it on videotape because you knew exactly what you were looking for, but in real life, I promise this works and they will never see it. After the spectator selects their card, you'll square the rest of the deck up, and you'll place it on top of the box. And as they're picking this card up and they're showing it around, they're focused on this card. Nobody's really watching you. What you're doing is picking the deck of cards up with the box that's under it, that's actually a shell of a box. So underneath that is a regular deck of cards. You're going to place that onto a table somewhere else in your pocket. When this is done as a fluid move, no one's going to notice that you did this. It looks like you put the cards down, then it looks like, oh, you just put the box over here. To make this gimmick, I took a regular box from a deck of cards, and I just cut out the bottom section, making a shell that will easily sit on top of another deck of cards. This looks very natural to have a deck of cards on the table with the card box to the side. No one would suspect anything. If you're actually performing a magic show where you're doing multiple different types of magic tricks, it's very easy to swap out a regular deck for a gimmick deck. So I perform some magic trick with this deck of cards, then I place them aside because now I'm going to do some trick with a rubber band, let's say, or maybe I'm going to do a coin trick. Now I'm done with that trick. I'll go back to my deck of cards, and I've very simply just swapped those for the other deck, and now I have my one-way forcing deck. Now I'm going to show you an effect that can be done using the short cards that came with your deck. Begin by showing your spectator that you have a mixed up deck of cards. Then you're going to turn your back, and you'll instruct the spectator to pick any card from the deck, look at it. So in this case, they got the 2 of diamonds, place it back on top of the deck, and then cut the deck once, and square the deck up so there's no way you could possibly know what card they picked or where it is in the deck. They'll turn back and they'll show them with just a sense of feel you're going to find their card. You give the deck one cut, and you'll say, I think your card is in the second position. Not this one. No, I think this is your card. Now what's great about this trick is this is a regular deck of cards other than that one short card that I added to the deck. Place the short card on the bottom of the deck, and I'm ready to go. It doesn't matter what card they pick because they're going to put it on top of the deck anyway. So in this case, it's the 8 of clubs. You're going to place it on top, and then by cutting the deck once, they're putting that short card that was on the bottom right on top of the card they selected. They cut the deck once, they finish the cut, and now that short card is right there. When you cut the cards, if you let your thumb run up the back of the cards, it's going to automatically catch that little gap between the 2 cards because one of them is shorter, and you're going to cut to the 6 of spades on top of the deck every time. Don't even think about it. Just cut the cards, let them fall where they do. It'll be the 6 of spades, which makes the second card the card they selected. Show your spectator that you have a mixed up deck of cards. You're going to ask them to select any card from the deck. It really is a free choice. Let's say they pick this one. In this case, they got the 6 of diamonds. Now you'll explain to them that you're going to deal 2 piles of cards and you'll stop whenever they say to stop. So you cut the cards once, and then you're going to start dealing, and you'll say, tell me when to stop. So let's say they said stop right there. Now you'll ask them to point to either of the 2 piles. Let's say they point to this pile. So you'll take the pile, you'll count the cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. You stopped at exactly 5 cards, but the question is, how did you know you stopped at your card? To do this trick, you're going to place your short card on the bottom of the deck. You'll have the spectator select a card. In this case, they got the Jack of Spades. Now, without bringing any attention to it, you're just going to take that card, place it back on top of the deck, and cut the deck once while you're explaining what's going to happen next. Tell them that you're about to deal some cards into 2 piles, and you want them to tell you when to stop. And while you're explaining that, you'll casually just cut the cards one more time without saying anything about it, but you've now just brought your short card to the top of the deck, putting their card in the second position. Start dealing into 2 piles, and you really can stop whenever they say stop, but notice what you just did. The first card you dealt was your short card. The second card is the card they selected. So you know that their card is in this pile. You deal as many cards as you want on top of this. It doesn't matter. And you'll stop whenever they say stop. You'll ask them to point to either of the 2 piles, but it doesn't matter which one they point to. You're going to use this pile. So let's say in this case, they pointed to this pile. I'd say, okay, you pointed to this one. We're going to eliminate these cards, leaving us with this pile. If they selected this pile, I'd say, okay, great. We're going to use this pile. Either way, I'm taking this one. Now, as I count how many cards are in the pile, I'm moving the bottom card to the top. So I'll tell them, great, you stopped right here with exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. But that's not what's interesting about this. What's interesting is the top card of this pile happens to be the card you select.